anything in particular that was there something that I said yesterday that was particularly confusing? That it's all about keeping that bow just steady on that string from one end of the note to the other, and not. Tell you what, if everybody's in standard, let's see if we go back over that thing I was doing yesterday. Showing you Sugar Hill. Remember, 2 fingers. And the one thing I don't have here is I should have bought a board that I could, because you got to.
Made all the difference in the world.
Was there?
was able to jam and be comfortable.
Anything that particularly
In a bag at home.
is there a sound? Is there something that you've been trying to get from someplace else that you can't figure out what it is? What is it? You hear a sound that you're after. What is it? What is it you're after that's got you stumped? That's the thing. Because that's the thing that's going to get you. That's going to pull you in the direction of learning the next thing you're going to learn. It's following your ears and letting those ears lead you.
I just need to screw on a teeny tiny bit so I can see them. But sit down.
Well,
Take your hat off, sit down.
well, but it's still, you hear something and you want to be able to do that. It's not a question of what you know, being able to just duplicate what you hear. It's a question of what is it that grabs your attention, and that because that gives you the questions to start asking to figure, you know, and find help. If you know, there's always going to be, because it's like your ear is going to keep asking you the questions. You got to pass those questions along to get the answers.
Yeah. It's what I sort of discovered is if I don't have the notes actually written down for something, then if I don't brush to writing down really quick, then I want to practice it, I can't do anything. And then if all I have is the notes, I can sit there and I can play the notes and I can get the tempo right and everything, but it doesn't sound like a thing. It just sounds like a bunch of notes strung together. So I have to know what it sounds like and know what the notes
Exactly.
are.
But the thing is too, what you want to do is to be able to, you know, is to hum it or whistle it or something, so you feel, you kind of you feel what you're after, and also not just hearing the tune in your mind, but hearing the way that it's played.
Yeah.
Because you're not just after the notes, you're after the style. You're like I say, my favorite tunes, there's nothing to them. There's not enough there. It has, if it doesn't have style, it doesn't have anything. Because there's maybe only 2 or 3 notes.
Yeah, the reason I took up the fiddle is because I played the banjo, and I listen to most of these are fiddle tunes that we play, and I listen to a lot of good fiddle players. Gail Ann Amundsen plays with this sort of lilt or swing or something like that, and I can kind of do it on the banjo, and I wanted to learn that. I thought if I learned the fiddle, it would give me more insight into the banjo, but I'm always looking for that little sort of just barely off the beat swing, because when she plays, she really likes sort of, the music seems to sway.
Well, I think that's what is it. She probably doesn't use exactly the same kind of rhythms that I'm showing you, but it's like that basic riff that I was showing you that Sugar Hill is based on, where you're leading that downbeat with the bow. Down, down, up, down, up. And always remember, learn to tap your foot right on the beat. Use a metronome. You want to get that. You got to have the center of that rhythm to talk to. You can't let the bow lead the rhythm. The everything that, because the minute if you don't have the center, if you're not aiming right at the next downbeat, the minute you stumble, the whole thing falls apart. And you're going to stumble. It's just the way it is. I'm always tripping over something, but you probably wouldn't notice it because I'm always aiming at the next downbeat. That's.
It sounded to me, it's just an impression, but after having watched you play last night
Yeah.
and starting off with the banjo, I got the impression that the way that you feel, but the way that you play the fiddle is very much inspired by your banjo playing, because with the banjo, having all those fingers, you have such incredible texture of rhythm, and then it seemed like your fiddle interpretations have a richness of.
Well, I'm always going for what's happening inside the rhythm, whatever it is, because that's what attracts me most. It's like it's that stuff that's on the inside. It's like talking with somebody last night about how playing fast isn't. Playing too fast really spoils it, because it's like you get past a certain point and you're just kind of skimming straight over the surface of it, but you want to be able to get inside of a tune and just move around inside of there. And I don't know whether that's it just works on everything. It's a whole lot different how you move to make the rhythm with a banjo and with a fiddle.
But it's still, your playing is a little different than a lot of other people that I've heard play because of that, because you're so cognizant of the rhythm both in the banjo and in the fiddle, and to me the banjo feel carried into
Oh yeah,
the fiddle
well it's
feel.
definite. It's in there because it's like the thing that I want to, But you listen to that, and it's there in so much of the real traditional fiddling from everywhere, which is so much of it is just dance music was somebody playing the fiddle. It wasn't a band. It wasn't a It might have. Some places you might have had a banjo. Some places you might have had another fiddle. Some places you might have had somebody just playing the bass, which in those days would usually have been a cello rather than a double bass. But it's the main thing was just that rhythm coming out of a fiddle.
What's your thought on circle bowing? We haven't talked about crossing strings that way, and I don't know if you think about it explicitly.
Well, I mean, you can see that when you talk about making a circle. You're staying on one string and moving on and off of another one. It's pretty much what you're doing. Yeah, well, and I mean, you can sit.
Keep the note going while you're playing.
Yeah. Like anything else, it's like too much of one thing is too much, but. Just feeling it, riding that string and keeping it going. It's a real trick because you have two different motions going at once. One is just drawing the tone across the string, and the other one is shifting from string to string and having control of that at all times. It's like everything else. You try and think of it consciously, and it's impossible because your conscious mind is so limited. You know, all this stuff about multitasking, humbug. You do one thing at a time.
It seems to add weight and volume and texture to the tone, because it just adds a layer of interest to the tone when you do that. Yeah.
Yeah, if you. Because you can, yeah, you can get what sounds almost staccato, but it isn't, because you're keeping the thing going at the same time, and it's certainly a problem that a lot of people that have had classical training have. They hear this stuff and they don't understand. They hear these separated notes and they're stopping that bow, and it's like, no, that's not what's going on there.
Like I play more bluegrass, stuff like that, and I'm working on double stops.
Yeah.
But I'm sort of fascinated where the old time fiddle style, it has that more drumming and and also it seems like you use this alternate tunings a lot. So when you're learning on it, you've got the notes there already. It's like I used to be so fascinated, like how can you do that? And I realized, oh well, they've got the chord really set up for them, and they're droning on the chord while they're adding.
Exactly. Well, yeah, that's what a lot of that is what again, it goes back to the thing of that you've got the dance music is just a fiddle, and you're trying to get as much out of that fiddle as you can, and it's this tuning in fifths is probably all in fifths is the best. Certainly the best way to go if you're trying to play chromatically and just playing any key you want. But pretty much when you're playing these old dance tunes, you get in a key and you stay there. You're not modulating any place. And so why not tune your instrument to really play as strongly as it can in that key. Even if you're not playing on those strings, they're vibrating sympathetically if they're tuned to a primary note, and it reinforces the tone of your instrument.
When do you feel trouble with your bowing on the shuffle?
Oh no.
Gainesville's a big cross tuning. Gainesville, but people like to cross tune down there. Do you ever play cross tuning, or?
Oh, I play. I like retuning for all kinds of things. I mean,
Is that just to make the notes easier on the fingers, or?
Well, no, it's just what I just said about how you want to have ringing notes in important places.
Oh, okay, so it's
in your scale that you're playing, and two, it's like that. That's also, and really, the way old time fiddling uses even the standard tuning, really uses whatever key makes use of the sound of where do those open strings fit in the key you're playing in.
the resonance, yeah.
And it's like, I find that there's some tunes that are usually played in other keys that go great in like flat keys like F and B flat. And they just have there's just great sounds you can get out of them. So what is it?
And there's kind of other world those off keys too, or tuning those.
Well, and also because of the, like in the flat keys, your important open strings are on the sixths and the thirds of the scale instead of the do, you know, the 1 and the 5, what you wind up doing is you wind up fingering the do a little bit sharp of where it would be on a fretted instrument. So like if you go from playing in G to playing in B flat, you know, and the guitarist doesn't tweak the tuning any to suit, you're playing a little sharper, so you know, there's a little bit more something that fill just jumps out a little bit more. You know, like this is a tune that most people play it in G, some in A, but I just think it goes great in B flat. And I think perhaps I'll have to go back and listen to it, but I think Ed Haley might actually play this in B flat. No, it's just regular standard tuning. If I can remember how. The F, yeah, B flat and F natural. But a lot of the drone is on that D, which is the 3rd note of the scale.
What was that tune, please?
That's that called Brushy Run.
Thanks.
Do you think about sliding into notes consciously, or not think about that at all? Just
Yeah, well, you do. There's something that's just one kind of way of ornamenting a tune is sliding into a note, and that works for a lot of things. There's just all.
we gotta run. Come see us.
Oh yeah.
Not too far away. Let's get
Yes.
together and do something.
We will.
Appreciate you.
Bye.
Sorry to interrupt.
We're taking up your time.
See
ya.
Yeah. You know, there's just a lot of. There are all kinds of ways to get in. There's lots of ways of getting those things. It's those little changes and just little shifts of where you accent a beat that'll take one of those real simple tunes, and you can play it a dozen times through, and it's still interesting. old Zip Coon.
I mean, I feel like that as a fiddler. Like I just play the same things over and over again, and on the 102,000th time, I start understanding how to deal with this music. Literally. It's like I think that's what the old time fiddlers, they didn't have that many tunes they did sometimes. Sometimes they did the same tunes their whole life. And so they just knew that tune, like an old shoe, they just like manipulated it over.
They can do it in their sleep.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, and that's it. It's like, now there certainly were old time fiddlers who were famous for knowing many hundreds of tunes, but they're much more common were people whose repertoire was quite limited, but some of the very best, were like that, and it's like Tommy Jarrell was somebody who's he didn't have a really huge repertoire. I mean, people were saying, oh yeah, that. Because people followed him around for a long time and just sort of tried to get absolutely everything he knew. And I've heard people say, oh yeah, he might have. I think we might have been able to get 50 songs out of him, but that was about it. But then he also was, but every one of those. When he'd play it, it was never quite the same twice, and it was always all Tommy. And he also was famous for commenting about some musicians. Oh, that feller knows thousands of tunes. Can't play one of them.
Now you said that you might make an instructional. I hope it will be a video, and I hope that if you do make one, it'll be a video, and that you will be sure the camera catches your bow motion.
Well, I do have a DVD coming out, not just a performance, but it's
video.
It's video, yes.
I want it.
It's coming, yeah. Look it up on Google.
Do you know the name of it now?
I think it's just going to be with my name on it.
Okay.
David Bragger out in Los Angeles is doing it. Look up the Old Time Tiki Parlor.
The Old Time Tiki Parlor. All right.
In Los Angeles, it's this guy's house. This guy's living room is the Old Time Tiki Parlor. He's got his own sense of style about things. He's a character. Real good teacher, and sort of, he's decided he's gonna kind of issue some stuff, and got me out there and shot all that video in his living room, and lit it and did and recorded it very professionally. He also just he has issued mine is going to be the second DVD he did. The first one that he just issued is one of Rafe and Bailey Stefanini, which you'll probably be interested in too if you're interested in fiddle bowing.
Sugarandthegourd.com is a great place to hear old time on your computer, but it's hard to get into because they have limited bandwidth. So if there's too many people in that room already, you can't get in. But it's a great old time
noticed they didn't have a lot of
internet
words
station.
either. Because they use the same verses, like they're the same word from different
Oh,
things.
betcha. Yep. Well, but you and well, and the thing is, it's like most of these tunes, they have, of course, the same verses are going to work because it's got the same, it's got the same basic rhythmic kind of pattern, you know. Four little 4-beat lines.
Did you practice with a metronome for those 20 years or so?
You know, I didn't, but since I've started teaching, I just, you know, it's like I find steady, you know, it's like the more I teach, the more I realize the absolutely central importance of steady time. And every time I start getting on a student about, okay, you gotta stay with the beat. You gotta, you know, don't be speeding it up, don't be slowing it down. You gotta be right there on it. And I get out that metronome and say, let's work with this. Every time I get that metronome out, I realize, oh yeah, I still got stuff to learn about this too. I need to listen to that thing too, because you can't ever get you always want to shoot for perfection and always realize that no matter how you try, you're never going to get there. And it's I think it's always good to keep that what the Zen people talk about, the beginner's mind. You got to you can't, you know, the only, you know, it's like I really jump on people when they ask me, well, how long before I master this?
It'll be next Thursday at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, you know, and I say, wrong question. You know, how long before I get good? You know, but or like, I say, well, let me practice that lick until I've got that mastered, and then I'll come back. And I say, you're not supposed to. You know, you don't ever get it mastered. You know, because once you arrive someplace, wherever it is, you just realize where the next place is you want to go. It's not like, you know, it's not like you've arrived anywhere when it comes to this. You're always just starting out, no matter how long you're at it.
How about crooked tunes? Do you ever get involved with those? I like.
Oh, I love
like 'em.
all kinds of crooked stuff. I do tend to like. I do have this tendency to kind of at least want to straighten things out sometimes, because when I find a tune that I like, I mean, it's been a long time since I played for dances. I used to play for dances a lot more, but everybody wanted square tunes for dancing.
Well, you have to.
And you know, and so I would figure out versions that would come out to a nice square 32 bars, and now and a lot of times now I'll habitually play those tunes that way, even though they might have been a little more crooked originally, or, you know, maybe not really crooked, but like maybe have one short part and one long part, or 3 parts that I might have figured out how to make into 2 short ones and a long one to make it fit, or something like that.
I guess the crooked ones were created before there were bars in music.
Well, yeah, and it's like, and some people just don't hear things in those even square blocks of time. And there's, well, certainly there were tunes that were kind of crooked or strange tunes in the old days that sometimes there would be specific dances that went with those tunes.
Oh,
And then a lot of, and most of the, certainly most of the southern mountain square dance tradition didn't follow exactly on the phrasing of the music. It was just, you know, the tune pulled the whole thing along, but it wasn't like the standard contra dances and quadrilles and stuff that had particular figures to particular parts of the music.
Do you have any tips for what we could do to practice? What your best advice is to practice?
For the practice,
I mean, some people say scales, and you know.
Well, I'd say like
one song.
Rhythm,
Rhythm.
and you know, I would say find a tune that you find a, not just a tune, but a performance. I mean, you want to listen past the tune. You want to hear what the stuff inside is that grabs you emotionally, and just say, okay, what's going to, how do I get the little thing in there that I hear? What is that? And that may involve asking other people questions. What is it that makes that so interesting? Where this thing, it seems real similar, just it seems dull. And find people, particular players whose sound really moves you. And I still, you know, my wife wants to throw something at me every time I say, you gotta listen to the dead guys. But, you know, we have the ability to hear these recordings of people who are long gone, who learned music in ways that are impossible to do now. And there's things that there's lots to be learned from them that you're not going to get from me or anybody else who had the luxury of having just this colossal smorgasbord of stuff to pick from in music. Of, you know, we're just, I mean, like now it's kind of like trying to drink out of a fire hose with the internet. I mean, but even when I started, when I thought I had to just really beat the bushes to find recordings of anything, it's like I had exposure to a range of stuff that was just huge compared to the folks of the, you know, in that first generation of recorded musicians.
I noticed when you play, you turn your fiddle, and sometimes you play with the edge of the bow. And I noticed that the really fine old-time players they seem like they all do that.
I don't know. I think it's subconscious.
What's the deal with that?
I think a lot of that just has to do with just trying to keep a loose hand on the bow.
Yeah, but you deliberately turn. You can see you're turning the bow and playing on the edge of the strings.
I do a lot of things that I'm not conscious of too.
No, but a lot of people do that.
Well, I know
and
they
I was
do.
wondering why. What quality is it that they get?
Well, I think you can if you kind of, I do think you get a little more bite out of it if you dig in on the bridge side.
Okay, but the bows. No.
or less you want to keep that whole thing in contact with
So
it.
the quality of the tone changes when you
It
play
might.
with the edge of the strings rather than flat?
I
Has to do with how your hand is shaped when you hold the bow. It's natural
some
to
of it
tilt
some
it
of
a
it is some of it is really accidental that comes from, because if you're really moving your wrist, it's going to tilt that bow
Yeah.
a little bit. Just
Oh, okay. So it's not deliberate.
comes from your hand.
no, it's not much
Oh,
deliberate.
okay.
It's although you know, I think that a serious classical player is mindful of that stuff.
Oh, they're always in classical. They're always flat, absolutely flat.
No, that's not true.
Oh no.
No.
There's certain
They teach
kinds
you
of
to
attack
tone.
that you want to that you're getting, and on one edge you're coming down on one edge or the other, and I I don't really think about that.
Okay.
But that, I mean, generally you want to stay more or less flat on it. But the idea is that the important thing is that you're leading with the wrist, and because the bow is moving in your hand and your wrist is moving on your arm, the thing is going to rotate some.
Okay.
But that's mostly accidental.
Okay. That
It's- or
answers
it's
my.
a-
I never knew that. I was always wondered about it.
A
and
side
now
effect.
That
The
answers my
thing-
question.
It's about staying loose.
Okay.
Robin's my teacher over there,
Right.
and I had the devil of a time with string crossings
Yeah.
until Robin broke it down for me and showed me how
Yeah, you gotta-
playing the string crossing and the movement she taught me that just made all the difference in my fiddling. She said it's almost like a child waving bye-bye. They
Yeah.
they you know
'Cause you
that
have to be
movement that they
loose.
make.
But yeah, but then the trick too is that you have to realize is that the main motion of the wrist for the bowing has to be that same thing,
Yeah.
and not just the string crossings. Although it's like the wrist does that too, but. But that, you know, you need to kind of feel that and realize that, you know, if you're keeping everything in contact, you're way too tight on it. You know, it's like there's no reason when you're certainly when you're playing traditional style, there's no reason to have that pinky in contact. It's just there for picking up the bow when you're done, because you're not playing off the string at all
You're playing in the upper half.
when you play. You know, and these other fingers are just along for the ride. You know, I kind of feel, like, I think they're sort of a little more sensory feedback to help me just kind of know that I've kind of got the thing under control. But the minute you actually start gripping with those fingers, you got it blocked in, and it loses that freedom.
So is it just a matter of practice to train your fingers that you're not supposed to participate even if they're sitting on the bow?
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it's just, you know, what is it's a thing of just sort of you have to go through there and just root out all the unnecessary tension and all the unnecessary energy, and just feel what's happening there, and just put that little bit of force in just the right direction that it's supposed to go. And I really think too you do and think about using the end of that bow where gravity is where the, you know, the angles and the effect of gravity are working in your favor. Not that you can't, not that there's anything wrong with using the whole bow, but you get the most done with the least bow and the least energy and the right up at the tip.
You play 6 or 8 hours on a dance. I guess that comes in handy to not wear yourself out so badly.
Oh, there's nothing like playing dances to teach you how to relax, and also to teach you how to improvise, because you'll go nuts playing the same tune a dozen times through exactly the same way. And
In the old square dance tradition, do they play one tune for the whole dance? Because I play contra dance music, and we switch four tunes.
what?
We switch like at least
Well,
4 tunes.
that's actually generally they play the same tunes, and actually in the contra dance tradition, there were generally specific dances that went with specific tunes, and in the old days, even there, they would play a specific.
Right.
They would play a tune for the whole dance.
And it was a specific dance for that tune. Is that right?
Yes, a lot of them were. There's, so it got so if you were, if you did, you didn't have to call certain things because you heard that tune and you knew just where the moves were.
I think that comes from the English country dance tradition, where it's
Exactly.
still like that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because they have the tune and the dance as one.
yeah. And my stuff is all.
It's all packed. We're all good.
Oh, thank you.
Let me ask you. I still have some things in the refrigerator that I'm going to, of course, take
We're
for you. Is that
improvising.
okay? That I
I
can
started
take it?
That's fine.
to
Or do I have to
improvise
get
when
it
I
out of there
discovered the
right this minute?
pentatonic scale with the banjo.
Okay.
I guess it's the same with the
There's
fiddle.
still some pies in the
Absolutely,
refrigerator.
absolutely. Pentatonic scale is sort of the basis of everything.
So I got to figure that out on here.
On each, yeah, I mean, and well, like that Sugar Hill, that's exactly what you got there. Is you got sugar, it's just that's just an octave of pentatonic scale with do in the middle.
So that's exciting. I'm just starting out, so I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah.
When you play Sugar Hill, do you tune your G string differently?
Usually I'll tune it up. Usually if I'm playing, usually in D I'll tune that up.
For the sympathetic vibration.
For the sympathetic vibration, just to kind of, because I can kind of, just kind of touch down there, and it reinforces that. It reinforces that chord, and a lot of times it's, it'll just, it's nice when when you hit that 5 chord, when you hit the A chord, something that centers on that A, to get down there and do that, and also it puts the unison on the 3rd finger instead of the 4th finger, which makes it, when you get down to that, it's easier to just double up that low D and make.
So when you're in D, you generally tune your G string down to A. Up to A. Sorry,
Yeah,
up to A.
right.
And what are there some other general rules like that if you're playing, say, A?
Well, there's tunes in A that I like to play in standard tuning. There's tunes in A I like to play in D tuning, and just with the G string raised. And there's other ones that I like to play in regular cross A, A, E, A, E. But then most of those tunes I tend to, if I'm in charge, that usually winds up being in G, because I'll just cross it down into G, because I find that I've got. Well, that's just the same thing, except instead of tuning the bass, the two lowest strings up, you tune the upper ones down, and it winds up being relatively the exact same thing. It's, you know, do, so, it's A, E, or G, D, G, D. And, you know.
So it makes your double bowing a lot easier?
It just gives you more ring, and there's just certain intervals that sound right in that. I mean, you'll hear it. It's well, yeah, pretty much. I mean, and you hear you listen to stuff, and there's certain notes that just jump out that. Oh yeah, that's got to be such and such a D. That has an open string there, or you know, so that's how that's tuned. And
do you tune G-Dad or D-Dad or Calico when you're playing with other people, or is that just to get up by yourself?
oh, you know, it depends on the tune. There's.
So I told you privately that I had discovered your daughter before
Yeah.
I ever knew about you. So of course you read the liner notes and then you find out about you. But Raina's recording, which is Ways of the World, that I like very much. Every single one of those tunes that she plays is in a special.
She's got all
tuning.
different tunings, yeah.
And what would you say? And she's kind of gone off and done her own style thing. If you had to talk about the difference in your different approaches, what would you say that it is?
Well, she certainly she learned a lot of her style from her contemporaries, and kind of, you know, never was. I think she always was a little bit reactionary to my insistence on. Hey guys.
Oh yeah. Okay.
And I think that she tends to be, although she's definitely kind of, you know, everybody kind of changes as they go along. Some, I mean, she does things, you know, she's done all sorts of things since then, and but in general, I think that she's got more of an upbeat emphasis, where I'm, you know, she's got more emphasis on that backbeat than I do, and I'm just I'm a real fierce downbeater.
But I think she shares the love of rhythm and the texture of rhythm that you
Oh
have.
yeah, she's into that for sure. Yeah.
Really through.
Is there any way to simplify or make less painful, like things that I have learned in my bass and I want to play them across, where you just kind of have to get repeat and keep doing it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's like you do what you're comfortable with. It's like there's, you know, even in areas where there's places where people just, the tradition is that you retune your fiddle for all kinds of stuff, and you'll find people who just decide, I'm not messing around with that. I'm going to figure out how to play everything out of one tune. And they just, you know, that's the way they do. And everybody gets, you know, you follow what makes sense for you in a lot of ways, and what works with the people that you like to play with too. Well, it depends on what kind of strings you have. I find that I have found that synthetic core strings don't take kindly to being tightened and loosened and tightened and steel core strings, whether you're talking, I think, you know, I'll use both rope cores and solid cores. You know, solid cores are the most forgiving generally, but rope cores work fine too, and seem to last pretty well. Although they generally don't last as long as solid core strings. I mean, prims last about prims and precisions seem to last forever, or almost. It's like they go bad. The thing is that they go bad so very slowly that you don't realize until, you know, like years down the line, oh, maybe I ought to try changing the strings. You change it like, oh, wow, this fiddle sounds so good.
It's like all your life goes, like I start realizing this before I get my instrument out, and I'm like, oh, hey.
Yeah, well, that's the thing about, the thing about, certainly with like those helichords is like, I find that I wear the A string out, and that's the sign you got to change it. You know, the winding starts coming off the A.
I was like, I was freaking out. I was lucky I knew what was going on. Because how you just shred your A string, and I'm like, I've never done this before. It was old, I guess.
Well, the winding is very fine on the A string, and it just, you know, and it's almost always, you know, the first or second finger spot that just it starts coming off, and the now I do find that the heavy gauge seem to last longer.
These steel strings just never fall out of tune. They just,
You know, it looks like you got prims on that.
yeah. And
rewinding.
I haven't played this fiddle for literally years, and it's still in tune.
Oh yeah, no, that's the great thing about steel strings, and almost all the old timers. You know, I think that I suspect that probably as soon as mandolins started becoming available in this country at least, and probably it was probably true in Europe as well. Even, you know, when you know that people that fiddlers probably started using mandolin strings.
I like the old. It fits with the old time sound.
And
yeah.
because they you know, gee, it's metal. You know, I mean, in those days, all violin strings were cut. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that, yeah. I mean, it was only. I mean, it was only just. I think it was only in the 20th century that classical violinists even accepted the idea of using a steel E.
Maybe that's why that guy had so many cats.
Well, actually, they never did make it out of... Catgut was never made out of cats, you know.
Oh.
Yeah, it was cat. Yeah, it was never... Catgut did not come out of cats. It's generally sheep, although it sometimes cattle and goats as well. But sheep gut is the usual substance that's used.
Somehow I'm disappointed to hear that.
Yes.
However, there has been an occasion where a cat hide might end up on that.
Oh yes, and
There's some very bad jokes about that.
Well, sometimes my fiddle sounds like
I'm told that cat hide is very good. It's a very thin, even skin and makes good banjo hide.
Does rattlesnake tail in the fiddle really change the tone of it?
I don't know. But you know what? I think I really suspect that the origin of that of the use of one of the origins of the use of rattlesnake, it, you know, in fiddle was to keep mice out.
Oh, I never thought about
I
that.
have, and I've seen others. I have a violin that has been patched. There's patches around the middle of each F hole, and I said, what in the world is that? And the guy said, oh, I had to put those because that fiddle came out of a barn and there were mice living in it and they chewed holes in there to get inside. And and every time I would get that, and like for probably 10 years, whenever I would get that fiddle out, if I'd lay it down, my dog would be.
There's a mouse in there.
The dog knew.
Well, thank you. I never knew that.
If you had cats, they would be parking on top of it.
Yeah, no, I don't know. My cats my cats like to curl up in cases, though.
Oh yeah.
That might have been the origin, but I think too that there's, that it might also be that in a really heavy homemade fiddle, if you put if you put a couple of rattlesnake rattles in there, you might well hear a difference. That's
kind of an old time buzz.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a raw sound. I like it.
Yeah.
I just wanted that disclaimer. My husband found a dead rattlesnake on the road. He brought it home. He cut the thing off. I need that for my aunt. And I didn't think he'd give it to me because, that's for him. That's kind of a guy thing. That's a precious thing.
It's a trophy.
That's a trophy. Yeah, but we really support, protecting rattlesnakes. There's a lot of them in danger. So
Well, it depends on where you are. There are some places where there's enough of them that it's kind of a good idea to kind of keep the population.
They're not endangered in Texas.
A lot of them are endangered, but that being said, it does get, I think for my mandolin, it gives a little extra, like
character. There's a character.
Like a little vibrato or something.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be the bad guy.
Okay.
I'm gonna put an end to all the merriment.
Oh,
Thank you
Mom!
guys so much for coming, all of
I'm
you.
not ready to go.
Sorry, we're about to be inspected, and we have to have all the metal chairs in the back room of the lodge stacked up, and then if you're in a brown chair with padding, if you can stack them on this back
To be
door.
inspected, I expect we're all going to be lined up against the wall and dropping trousers.
Everybody's